Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Emotional Intelligence Pawdcast. I'm your host, Sandra Thompson, founder of EI Evolution, and I am super excited to take you on this incredible journey. We're going to be exploring the transformative world of emotional intelligence and empathy, guided by some truly remarkable humans and their fantastic four-legged friends. In each episode, we'll dive into inspiring and heartwarming stories about our beloved canine companions. We'll discover the unique and magical bonds we share with our dogs and uncover the profound lessons they teach us about understanding and managing our emotions. From tales of loyalty and love to moments of learning and growth, our furry friends have so much to offer when it comes to enhancing our emotional intelligence. We'll also discuss practical tips and insights on how to cultivate empathy and emotional awareness in our daily lives, inspired by the natural wisdom of our dogs. So sit back and relax, maybe even with your playful pup by your side, and join us for an enriching experience that celebrates the incredible ways dogs help us connect more deeply with ourselves and others. Welcome to the Emotional Intelligence Pawdcast. Welcome, everyone, to the phenomenal Emotional Intelligence Pawdcast. Many of you who have been following this journey that I've been taking may remember a gentleman called Sebastian. Now, Sebastian was introduced to me by email, and I cheekily said to him, how about you come on my podcast? You've got a whole load of huskies. You kind of use them in British Columbia. This could be fantastic. And before I knew it, I was actually speaking to him live from his hut in the middle of British Columbia the following day. Well, this is a similar type of story. So my next guest, Dave, try saying that with your teeth in, responded to a post who I think someone had recommended that he had a look at it. And then he agreed to come on the podcast. I mean, how brave is that? Dave has got a couple of dogs. Dave, come in and join us all the way live from Massachusetts. How are you?
I could not be better, Sandra. I'm so excited to be here, and I remember seeing you put some post about it had something to do with dogs, and I put something about my dogs in there, I love what you're doing with this podcast.
Thank you. That's very kind. I have to say that when people start exchanging stories and talking to one another in the comments in LinkedIn and start sharing photographs of their dogs, I just think, oh, this is so amazing. I love it. So thank you so much for joining us on a Friday morning. Let's hear a bit about you, what you do, and then a little bit about the two dogs that you've got and some stories about those. Let's go for that first.
Sure. So, I am in fixed operations, which for most of your audience, they're going to have no idea what that is. Basically, I run or have run in the past, service and parts departments for new car dealerships.
Right.
I started back in 1987 as a technician. And I always joke that I was not a very good technician. So after a few years, Ford, who I was working for, asked me not to work on their cars anymore. And I moved over to the customer service side of the business, being a service advisor, the person you see when you bring your car into the dealership, all the way up to running stores. And a few years ago, I left the dealership world, as in working in the dealerships, and started working training dealerships around the United States. And that's what I've done for the last few years. I now work for a company called OEM Interactive, where we do marketing for parts departments that sell parts online. We also have a media division, which is more what I do, with a show that I have called the Fixed Ops Mastermind. We have a magazine and also a daily news website that we run.
Wow. So my partner's a petrol head. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, there you go. That is what we always say, because I've gotten out of the business a couple of times and you end up back in it. And that's what we say, is that once you've got that gas in your veins, it keeps coming back to you. So, on the more fun side of things, and the reason we connected, I have two dogs. I have Max, who is a Beagle-Chihuahua mix.
Wow.
He is, I call him 18 pounds of terror. He's got that beagle where he's always sniffing around and trying to find things, but he has the Chihuahua where if you get in his way, he's going to have a piece of your hand. And he's the
Wow.
elder statesman of the house. He's a little over 14 years old right now. And my new dog, who will be 10 months old in 6 days, October 10th, he'll be 10 months old, 80 something pounds. He's a giant puppy. And that's Saint. And he is they call him an Australian Mountain Doodle. So he's Australian Shepherd, Bernese Mountain Dog, and Poodle. More heavily on the Mountain Dog and Poodle side. He's only about 10% of Australian Shepherd.
Wow.
And it is funny to watch that big dog get completely bossed around by Max, the 18 pounds of terror.
Oh my gosh, I don't know where to start. So thank you for all of that. My mind is popping away with a whole raft of questions. So with your permission, I'm going to rewind a bit and go back to the not a very good technician, because my disgusting, terrible humor wants to ask you some questions about that. How do you know you weren't very good? Were like things falling off cars or something? How did you know? Surely that's not true.
So in the automotive world, it's known as a comeback. When you work on a car and it leaves and it comes back to you. And I had far too many of those. I had far too many situations where either I couldn't figure out how to fix the car, or it just took me way too long to actually fix the car. Or the dreaded you finish a car and on your bench you have 2 bolts that you're not sure what those are.
No. Sorry, Dave. I realise this is utterly unprofessional, but that is fantastic as a story. Not brilliant for the company, not very reassuring for the person who owns the car, but honestly, having some comebacks, that's, well, I don't know what to say. It's just, well, you moved on to another
Yes.
chapter of your life.
Absolutely. I definitely found my stride in automotive doing the customer service side and not the actual vehicle service side.
And how did you find that contrast in your work? So one, you're kind of dealing with the car and getting on with that, and then the next you're dealing with the people who own the car and all of the personalities and their demands and their gratitude or not. How was that switch for you, Dave?
Yeah, so honestly, it came pretty naturally, and not something that I really expected. I'm a very introverted person, which surprises a lot of people because I do these podcasts. I have a weekly show that I do. I have all these things. So I guess the term is ambivert is what they actually call it. So you can be extroverted when you need to be, but typically I gain my energy by having some quiet and alone time. But when I turned to the service advisor side of the business, what I found was that I really loved helping the customers as they would come in, solve their issues.
Yeah.
Right. And on the other side, on the shop side, I loved being able to solve problems for technicians, not in fixing the cars, but in being able to be more efficient at doing their repairs. Right. Okay. So in being more efficient with the customer up front, I could allow a technician to be more efficient in what they were doing. So customer would come in, as an example, they're in for an oil change, but you can see that, maybe the last time we talked about, the brakes were getting a little lower or whatever. I would discuss that up front with the customer while I was there with them. Say, look, this is what we saw the last time. There's a good chance that it's going to need the brakes. Here's how much it would be if you needed them. Is that something that you would want to do today? You would
Sure.
get a yes or no, or call me if it's going to need it. If I can get a yes from them at that point, when my technician comes to me and says the vehicle needs brakes, I can say, go ahead and do those brakes. I don't
Yeah.
need to now stop the technician, right,
Mm.
who is now not making money because they're not working,
Yeah. Yeah.
and go call a customer.
Mm.
I can say, already got pre-approval for that. You go ahead and do those brakes. And now I kept the technician working. The car got done faster. The technician was happier. The customer got their car back sooner. They were happier. And I loved being able to meld those two together.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole proactive managing the expectations, like gently nudging the customer in case this is something that will come up. I mean, that's a dream. That's fantastic. How that was the reason why you found the bolts. You weren't destined for that role. You were destined to do this sublime interaction with customers. Fantastic. And so tell us a little bit more about the podcast that you do, the other things, what's the passion
Yeah.
that you have?
Yeah. So the podcast started, it actually started a little over 5 years ago. I started this June of 2019 as a Zoom call, which June of 2019, if you remember, was pre-COVID.
Yeah,
Most people had no idea what Zoom even was.
100%.
I
Yeah.
found it by listening to a podcast. I heard the
Mhm.
founder of Zoom on this podcast, and I was like, wow, this thing sounds pretty cool. And I looked at it, and then I had the idea to put together a group of. So my original idea was I was going to help service advisors and technicians become leaders at the dealerships, right?
Mm.
A lot of service advisors and technicians want to move up. They want to be service managers, service directors, and they don't have a way to get that training.
Yeah.
So the original idea was I was going to start a group that some other leaders in the industry could just get together every week.
Mm.
Advisors, technicians could join, and we could help them get the knowledge that they needed to be able to progress in their careers.
Great.
What ended up happening was only leaders joined the group and no advisors and technicians. And so it turned into a almost 5 year run of, we met every Tuesday. It was a group of leaders. It was a subscription program that
Yeah.
they were paying for to be on the call every week. And we worked through issues. We had guests come on and talk about mindset and talk about emotional intelligence and other things. And it just became a really fabulous group.
Mm.
This year, or late last year,
Mhm.
we decided to move it to putting it on LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live,
Yeah.
and changing the format a bit, going more to having just the guests, right? And anybody that wanted to join can obviously join in the comments and things like that.
Yeah.
But being able to bring the guests that we were having on there to more people, right? Rather than just that
Wow.
group.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's what we do now. We do that show every single week. It airs on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard over here in the States.
Yeah.
Re-airs on Thursdays at 8 p.m., which was Tuesdays at 8 p.m.,
Yeah.
which was the original group time. So we kept
Mhm.
that group time. For anybody who had already blocked that out of their schedule, they can still go and watch the show then.
Yeah.
And the other side of what I do is, the magazine is called Fixed. So I write pieces for the magazine. I find other experts to write articles
Mhm.
for the magazine. It's enjoyable to do the show, and
Yeah.
then I can use the content from the show to help me write articles for the magazine, right?
That's
Because
it.
now I've got this great information from these people who come on the show, and I
Mhm.
can turn that into other content to write and put in the magazine.
Yeah.
And then we have the daily news, which is fixedopsnow.com,
Mhm.
for automotive people to go on and get some news of the day. They can see back episodes of the show. We have a part of the show that we call We Are, and it's an acronym. It's Women Educating in Automotive Retention and Excellence. And
Right.
so every third Thursday in the month is a We Are edition. And that is either hosted by me with women guests in the industry, or I also have a couple of guest hosts who are women. So it's a completely all women show that we do. And then we do the same thing with that content. We turn that into, articles and other things to help bring more women into this industry. I've worked with a lot of women in this industry, and I say this all the time. They are better than the men. They are more organized, they are more analytical, and they are more level-headed. They work very well in automotive, and at least here in the States, they can make a lot of money in automotive.
Yeah. Well, I'm up for that for sure. So thank you then, Dave, for that. So any of you that are out there that are keen to get into the automotive trade, and particularly if you're a woman, check out Dave's. We'll put that in the show notes. Actually, I'll put a link to your podcast there so people can tune in.
Awesome.
Let's now move on to your four-legged friends. I want to hear more about Max first. So what happened? You from a puppy, or where did you get Max from? And how did you know he was a combination of those breeds?
Yeah. So the only time in my life I ever had a dog, I was 4 or 5 years old. And my dog, which I honestly, I really only remember one day of having that dog, and it was the day that the dog catcher, whatever you call that person, animal control person, took my dog away because he did what a dog does, and he attacked a neighbor's cat. So they made us get rid of the dog, which my parents told me he was going to live at a farm, right? They never told me about the cat until later in life. And then I never had another dog. And so I got married, and I was like, my wife's family had dogs.
Okay.
And I was like, I want to get a dog. We lived in a small ranch house. We had a 3-year-old son at the time. So we were like, all right, well, we can't get a big dog because it's not going to fit in this house.
Yeah.
So we found a breeder who was about an hour and a half away from us.
Yeah.
And she was breeding what she called pocket beagles. And so from what she had told us, this was a breed of beagles from back in the day over in Europe. That the hunters used to have these beagles, and they were smaller than regular beagles, so they could put them in the pockets on the side of the horse and take them hunting with them. And so that's what she was trying to breed. That's where the Chihuahua and Beagle came in, so she could make a small one.
Yeah.
And so we got him when he was 8 weeks old is when we picked him up. Super sweet dog. He does have the Chihuahua in him, so you do not get in his way when he has food. He does not take well to that. But other than that, he's a super sweet guy. Thinks he's way bigger than he is. And loves to sit in your lap, or if you're laying in bed in the morning, he sleeps on the bed with us. He'll climb up onto your chest like, hey, it's time to get up, kind of thing. He's been a great dog. I call him more of a cat. He's not a dog who he's not going to walk around the yard with you and that kind of things, because he's got that beagle sense. So as soon as you get him outside, he's off smelling stuff.
Yeah, the scent. Yeah.
And does not want to walk with you. When you try to take him for a walk, he's just dragging you on that leash as he's smelling things.
So beagles are really, really intelligent. They are. I think I've heard that they're one of the brightest of all types of dog, and it's fascinating because they do. I understand that once they pick up on a scent, well, they're searching for a scent, but once they've picked up on a scent, that's it. They are stubborn as anything.
Yes.
And they won't give it up until they have concluded, like some kind of investigator, which I think is why often cartoons children's cartoons have a beagle as an investigator or a police person, because they just don't give it up. So how do you get Max home if he's picked up on a scent and actually this scent is a few miles away, mate?
Yeah. So I will tell you, when Max was younger, and which also means I was younger, I would typically, let him out, and he would be pretty good. But before we got Saint, I had another dog that we got when Max was 3 or 4 years old. We got a golden doodle, and the two of them would go out, and Max's nose would get the golden doodle into trouble, would drag him away to different places. But when Max was younger, where we lived, there was a stream that ran down the side of our property and around the back of the property. Max does not like water at all. And so that stream kept him contained onto the property. So that was a big help, that he would not go away because he wouldn't go in the water.
Okay. Wow. Well, I didn't know that. That's quite interesting. So as far as empathy and emotional intelligence and Max being tuned into anything, are there any stories you have where Max has displayed behaviors of having those superpowers to connect to you or your wife or your children or whoever it might be? Would you share any of those for us now, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably too many to share at this point, with him being 14, 15 years old. But any time somebody in the house is not feeling well, he's right there by your side. Whether that's just sitting on the couch, or if you're actually sick and you're in bed, he will stay in bed all day long and not leave your side. He's very, very tuned into when somebody does not feel well. And like I said, just will not leave your side. As I said previously, other than that, he's more like a cat. He goes and does his own thing. If somebody's sick, he is right there with you and will stay in bed with you.
Okay. So quite a free spirit, but has his loyalties with you all to be your kind of companion in the moment of need. That's fascinating. Thank you. So let's move on now to Saint, which I can't wait to see a photograph of the pair of these two characters together. But I'd like to understand a bit about the temperament of Saint and how each of the breeds do you think are showing up, and also what Saint might do that shows some type of empathy or some kind of emotional connection.
Yeah. So one of the ways that we can definitely see the breeds in Saint, the Australian Shepherd side, which he only has, like I said, just a little bit of, but he will try and herd his people. I'm regimented in the morning, not with I go and work out and things, but I make coffee and I go to one spot to drink that coffee. As soon as I leave the kitchen counter, he is grabbing a hold of my pants and pulling me to the chair. And sometimes it's like, if there's not enough slack in the leg of the pants, he's getting a piece of your leg. And it's like, dude, that hurts, man. But he will herd you to the chair where he knows you're going. And he does the same thing. Like if it's in the evening after supper and he knows, we go to a place to sit and talk, he'll try and herd us there to get us to those places. The other thing that he loves to do is he loves to play ball. Which my Max does not play. And my previous dog, Ollie, who was a golden doodle, had no interest. You would throw a ball and he would literally look at you like, I was right here. What did you throw it for?
You go and get it. You know what? Exactly. You go and get it. I'm not getting it.
Exactly what would happen with Ollie.
No.
So I will tell you something that does happen with Saint. Um, similar to Max is so I had an injury on the inside of my right shin. So inside as in it wasn't a cut on the outside of me that you could see. And didn't know what it was, but before I even did anything about it or said anything about it, he was over sniffing at my shin. And I had pointed out to my wife, I'm like, he keeps sniffing my shin where I have that pain. Like it to me, it's odd. Like how does he have any idea? And then so I went to the doctor. The doctor was like, I have no idea what it is. I went to they sent me to physical therapy. They're like, we've never heard of this issue that you have. And I'm like, I know there's something there. My dog is sniffing at that spot. So there's something going on.
Yeah. I mean, those things are incredible, aren't they? I have heard of quite a few of those types of accounts where there seems to be something physical that's changed that's not visible, and the dog either just stares at the human or sniffs it or puts their paw or their head onto that space and just kind of looks as if to say, look where I'm looking, look where I'm looking, kind of thing. Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, I just watched a video the other day, and this person has an assistance dog because she has seizures. Right. And so the video, she was working in her garage, she was sanding a piece of wood. Yeah. And the dog is just laying next to her, and the dog gets up and kind of like nuzzles against her leg. And she explains in the video, she's like, he's sensing that a seizure is coming on. Yeah. She said I still felt okay, so she kept working. She said, and then the video shows the dog just gently jumps up on her. Yeah. And she said, when he's trained, when he jumps up on me, that means I need to sit or lay down because the seizure is imminent. Yeah. And so when he jumped up on her, she lays down, and in the video you can still see her feet. Yeah. And in 5 seconds, you can see her feet kind of shaking because she's having the seizure. And that was well over a minute into the video where the dog first alerted to the seizure. And she was like, I still felt fine. But that something in her body was changing that the dog could obviously sense or smell and alerted her to it. And it absolutely blows my mind every time I see something like that. Yeah,
that's right. So there's a program that I've started watching. I think I've watched 4. There might only actually be 4 episodes, but it's a Netflix production and it's about dogs. And one of them is around a charity somewhere in the States where all of these dogs have been trained with specific needs in mind. And so they're very disciplined to pick things up. And there was a young lady who has epilepsy, and this dog would be doing that. He'd be like nudging her to go and get ready, as it were, for the seizure she was about to have. So it made sure that she was in a comfortable position and not going to do more injury to herself, which is what you're describing. But their ability, their sensitivity in picking up on those signals, because they can smell so incredibly strongly, and because they have been trained to act straight away. Now, I had a guest on the podcast where we were talking about the permission to act and the fact that we as humans might sense something with another human, but often we don't say anything in case we're inappropriate or we've got it wrong. Whereas these dogs are trained for that purpose and dive straight in. And the question we kind of went to was, I wonder what would happen if, as humans, we asked a few more questions to get to a particular point before something more significant happened. I mean, what do you say to that?
Yeah. So I on my show, I just had a guest and we were talking about coaching people. And what we talked about was having relentless curiosity. Yeah. When you're coaching someone. That's it. And I think you can use that relentless curiosity in your everyday life. Yeah. Just ask more questions of people.
Yeah.
There's a gentleman, David Meltzer, who always says, be more interested than interesting.
Great.
And I think that's the dog is not trying to be interesting to anybody, right?
Yeah.
They're interested in you. They're interested in your attention or somebody
Mm.
else's attention. That's all that they're there in service of you their entire lives.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think we'd be better off as as a species if we all acted that way.
And let's explore that for a minute then, Dave, if we may. Can we talk about the contribution that you think these four-legged friends make to us as humans? You know, generally, what happens in your household, what happens in your community that makes you think dogs are cool?
Yeah. So I'll give you a little bit of a glimpse into the backstory of my life. So I almost just said December, the end of December will be 8 years since I've had any alcohol.
Okay.
I definitely allowed alcohol to interfere in my life. And my wife said to me the other day, I was playing with Saint, and I don't even remember what we were doing, but I was laughing my head off because of something that he was doing while we were playing. And she said, all you needed in your life was a dog. She's like, it probably would have prevented a lot of the problems that you had in your life if you had
Wow.
just had a dog. And I had
Yeah.
never really thought about it, but I was like, she's absolutely right. Like
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time. I work from home. I'm very lucky to work from home,
Yeah.
and I have a very large yard, which Max is not interested in. He goes out in this top little fenced area, but he's not interested in going and running in the big yard. So he stays there. Saint and I go out and play ball, and it helps me because I get out and get some more exercise during my
Mhm.
day, 3 or 4 times during the day to get out
Yeah.
there.
Hmm.
Um, but it completely frees my mind of any worries why I'm out there. The only thing I'm thinking about is throwing the next ball to him, or walking to the bottom of the hill so I can watch him run down through the grass, at me and run by me at 100 miles an hour. It really does. It really does just get into you. And allow you to, I'm going to say, kind of shut your brain off.
Okay.
I'm a person I am constantly thinking about things, whether it's an idea for something new to do with the show or in the magazine, or some other business that I could start. Something like my brain is constantly going.
Hmm.
And when I play with Saint, that's all gone.
Yeah.
There's nothing else going on up there except
Mm.
what I'm doing with him. And that's extremely freeing for me.
Wow. Well, firstly, thank you for sharing that. I'd like to ask a few questions that have come up as you were speaking, and you
Yeah,
don't need to answer any of these. You can just say, look, love,
I'm an
forget
open
it.
book.
Okay, here we are. So I'm going to suggest then that when you're with your dog, with any of them, whether it's Ollie or Saint or Max,
Mm-hmm.
you're present for them in the moment, because you have
Yes.
to be present to make sure you're looking after them. But also, I'm going to suggest that in that moment, when you're paying attention, you get you might get some endorphins, you might get some oxytocin, and that
Mm-hmm.
as a drug, as it were,
Yeah.
you get it better when you're fully present. So it's a draw for you to be present. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I think that's a perfect way to put it. It is being present. And it is being present is something that has always been a struggle, for me personally,
Okay.
because of my mind always going. And so
Yeah.
I'm talking to somebody and I'm thinking about what's coming next. I'm having a conversation at a party, and I'm thinking, oh, I also wanted to talk to Joe. I got to make sure I get over to talk to Joe. Or, oh, I got to remember, I was going to do this tomorrow. I got to make sure, I got to go make a note about doing that. Right.
Yeah.
And that being present has been a constant struggle. And you're absolutely right. When I'm with the dogs, I am completely present, and all of that is gone. And the dogs know that too, right? If I'm out playing with Saint and we're playing ball, and I take my phone, because I did think of something, or I get a text and I want to answer it, he doesn't come over and like try to drop the ball for me or whatever. He's like, oh, he's on his phone, and he leaves. And then he goes to do something else, right? And if that was a human being, you'd be like, oh, that was kind of rude. They just walked away from the conversation. But if you think back and you think, well, they walked away from the conversation because while you were talking to them, you went like this on your phone, or you were looking around the whole time you were talking to the person and not looking at them. They would walk away, right?
That's right. So Saint is voting with his paws. That's what we're talking about. He is. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna suggest something else, because I'm not qualified to speak about this, but there's something that's come up in my mind. Mm-hmm. In my experience of being with a dog or somebody else's dog, they've given me permission. Let me get that straight. It's like, because your parasympathetic system, or whatever it's called, it's on high alert when you're thinking about a lot of really hard stuff. You're constantly, it's alive and it's working, particularly if you're anxious or whatever else. When you're present with the dog and you're stroking it or you're throwing the ball or whatever else, it's like it's being allowed to turn off a little bit. It's like it's numbing a little bit. And I wonder if that's the same thing with alcohol. You kind of, with a lot of alcohol, and I remember this especially from my student days, you'd feel this, not for long, it wasn't for long, but you'd feel this sense of kind of numbness, and you were kind of like not having to think about stuff because you were so drunk. So I'm wondering whether the replacement of the being present is kind of equal to, but more healthy than, the not being as present, but in a different way with the chemicals that you get from alcohol. I don't know where that's come from. I don't even know if that makes any sense, Dave. Does it make any sense?
Yes, it absolutely does. And what I'll tell you for me personally with alcohol is I can look back to the very first time that I took a drink that if I had known then that I would have known I was an alcoholic. It was never about just having a couple of drinks with friends with me. It was always about getting drunk. And as I look back, it was because I could get drunk. I could feel more comfortable. I could feel a little better about things. Right. But that, as you chase that, like anything else, you need more and more of it to reach the same point.
Yes.
Right. And so that's what continues to happen with alcohol, is you need more and more and more to reach that point of, I feel comfortable. And it gets to a point where it's a diminishing return. And now you're never going to reach the point of being comfortable. You're just going to be drunk and you're going to be hungover. And the difference with the dogs is I can get all of that and get that comfortableness. And if you need some more of it, you play with the dog some more, right? There is no diminishing return. Saint, I told you, he's 10 months old. He will play from the second he gets up until the second you get into bed, if you want. He is a nonstop ball of energy. I said to him last night, I'm like, dude, get a hold of yourself. Just go lay down. It was 9:30 last night. I was like, go lay down. We played ball outside a few times. I was sitting there watching TV. He's bringing a ball. I'm throwing it into the kitchen. He'd bring the ball, throw it into the kitchen. I was like, just go sit down, man.
So here's the question, right? When you say to your dog, dude, get hold of yourself, does he do that whole like funny head turn tilt thing as if to say, is he saying something I actually what's he saying? Do I have to compute this?
So for Saint, sometimes he will give the head tilt, and Ollie used to do that a lot. Saint Saint is big with his paws. So usually when I tell him that, he gives me a whack with a paw. like it's not happening, bud.
That's the Bernese Mountain Dog thing, though, I think, because
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
He is really big with his paws. He loves to grab onto you with his paws, and when he sits, a lot of times he crosses over his paws like he trying to look regal.
Well, he obviously is, because you thought of the word there, Dave. Come on.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, again, Bernese Mountain Dogs are massive. Where I'm trying to persuade my partner to get one. He's like, they're too big. No, look at this one. Yeah, that's a puppy. No, they don't grow much bigger. He's not having any of it. But when I've seen the puppy, the paws are ginormous when they're tiny.
His paws are almost the same size as my hand.
Okay, so for those of you that are on audio,
paws.
that's big. That's big. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
He has big paws.
So, Dave, any final points that you want to make about dogs and emotional intelligence and empathy? It's been an utter privilege to speak to you, but I just want to close this up with any kind of last points you want to make on any of those topics. Anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, I would encourage anybody to go get a dog. Anybody that tells me they're not a dog person is somebody who has never had a dog for any amount of time. I probably would have told you beforehand that I'm not a dog person. And since having dogs, I cannot imagine my life without a dog. As much as a puppy is trying and is difficult, I cannot imagine. I cannot imagine life without a dog around. Whether it's to just sit and watch TV, whether it's to throw a ball with, whether it's to be there when you're sick, whatever it is. They are just always there, always ready, and to use your word, they are always present. Yeah.
Without judgment or anything like that. I mean, they can sometimes give you the side eye, as if to say, what are you doing? But that's about as much as you're going to get. I've seen that. Yeah. I've seen that in a couple of dogs that I know. That is evil. But thank you. Really, it's been terrific. And I cannot wait to see the photographs of these beautiful dogs. And I hope that the pants trousers in the UK, you're not ending up with a great big bill for more and more pairs of trousers or pants because you've got Saint guiding you to your next location, whether you're ready to go or not, right?
That is much better now that he doesn't have his very sharp puppy teeth. His very sharp puppy teeth took out plenty of pairs and plenty of shirts and all of that, but the new teeth are bigger, but they're not as sharp. So he's much better about not ripping things now.
I've got visions of you, right? Wearing, when you play cricket or something like that, you have these like shin guards. I can just imagine you getting ready in the morning with these shin guards, because if he doesn't manage with the trousers or the pants, he's going for your skin. Try that one, Saint.
Yep. That's a good idea. I wish I had thought of that when he was a puppy.
we thought of that first. Well, there we are. Great to see you, Dave. Have a really phenomenal day, and thank you for being so open. Really, quite a gift. So thank you very much.
Awesome. I appreciate you having me here, and hope everybody enjoyed the conversation.
Lovely.
So that's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in. If we've not connected already, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on there most days. You'll find me under CXEI Sandra. And also, if you want to find out a bit more about my work, then you can pop along to my website, www.eievolution.com. One final thing, and in the spirit of customer experience and feedback, I wonder if you might consider leaving a review on Spotify. I'll leave that one with you. So until the next time, be well and be pawsome. Ta-ra!